All right, here we are, lesson 12, carbon dioxide emissions. So the first page here on page 105, we've got a graph. So I want you to hit pause and answer questions 1 through 3 real quick. Okay, answer number 1. So fossil fuels, right? We've got coal, gas, natural gas, oil, all of those things that we, burn to pollute our air. And number 2, what observations can you make about this graph? Hopefully you noticed that from 1750 to 1900 we had a very small increase. And then after 1900 it starts to go a little higher. And by 1950 to 2000, man, we had an explosion, right? Huge, huge, huge increase. What caused that increase, do you think? I don't know. Cars became more prevalent. The burning of gas and that kind of thing probably increased it. And then number 3, estimate the global carbon emissions from 2012. Well, 2012, is about a fifth of the way between 2000 and 2050. It's probably about the end of our graph here, since that's the time frame it gives us. But we're close to 10,000, not quite there. I don't know. I said maybe 98, 9,900. But then if you look at the side here, the vertical, it says million tons. So for number 3, we're looking up here. This huge increase ends here. We're about 98, let's go with 9,800, and that's million tons of carbon. That's a lot of carbon. So this is the whole concept that we're going to be dealing with, and how do we know how much carbon emissions we have for different things going forward. Okay, let's walk through page 106. It's going to be important that you read all of this, just so that you have an idea of where this is all coming from. So we're talking about gas. 1 gallon of gas weighs about 6.2 pounds. So then we come down here. A gallon of gas is 87% carbon, 13% hydrogen by weight. So how many pounds of carbon are released into the atmosphere for 1 gallon, every gallon? So we know from up here, 1 gallon is 6.2 pounds. So if I have 6.2 pounds, because we have 1 gallon of gas, now 87% of that is carbon. So listen to what I just said, 87% of that. Now, of means multiply. So, when let me get rid of that so I have to give myself some room here. I'm going to take my 6.2 pounds and multiply by the 87%, because it's 87% carbon. So when I multiply those together, I find out that I've got 5.394 pounds of carbon go into the air. Now, in the second part, go ahead and hit pause. Calculate from pounds to kilograms. So I use the conversion of 0.454 kilograms as 1 pound. So we have approximately 2.45 kilograms of carbon released into the air. Okay, number 2, we're talking about pounds of hydrogen. Well, we know that the 6.2 pounds is gas. And we know that 13% of that is hydrogen. So we multiply by 0.13 and we get 0.806 pounds of hydrogen. Right? And if you take your hydrogen and add that to your carbon answer from number 1, together they should get 6.2 pounds because they make up those two pieces. Okay, I want you to hit pause and read the next paragraph. Okay, so they talk about in that paragraph atomic weight, and the basic thing that you need to understand is the last sentence. The weight of the hydrogen in the gas is multiplied by 9 in order to figure out the pounds of water. So in number 2, we found 0.806 pounds of hydrogen. If we take that and multiply it by 9, as stated in those directions, for every pound of gasoline burned, there's 7.254 pounds of water produced, which seems kind of weird, but is a true statement. Okay, go ahead and hit pause. Read the next paragraph. All right, similar. Now we're going to find out the pounds of carbon dioxide, and they tell you that the weight, last sentence of that paragraph I asked you to read, the weight of the carbon increases by a factor of 3.67. So we're going to go back to weight number 1, and we know that in the gas, 5.394 pounds of it is carbon. If I take that and multiply by the factor of 3.67 as they tell me to, I end up with 19.79598 pounds of CO2, and rounded to the nearest tenth is 19.8 pounds. If you flip back to page 93 with your conversion at the very bottom, at bottom left, there's a little box that says CO2 from gas, 19.8 pounds per gallon. We are going to need that. So just FYI, keep that in the back of your mind. All right, I want you to, well, let's do number 4 together so you're not quite so lost. All right, so you use 30 gallons of gas a week to get to school. How much CO2 is emitted by your commute for that week? Well, you start with 30 gallons. Same process of conversions. What do you start with? So we start with 30 gallons. Now, we want to know how much CO2. Well, we know from what we just figured out that 1 gallon is 19.8 pounds of CO2. All right, we got that from before. So that makes my gallons cancel out, and now I multiply across, and in your commute for that week, you will produce 594 pounds of CO2, which is kind of impressive. So right now, I want you to hit pause. I want you to try 5, 6, and 7 on page 107, and then come back. Number 5, take a car holds 40 liters. How much CO2? Well, you know, hopefully, that your CO2 is in pounds per gallon. So I've got to start with my liters and go to quarts. Quarts can go to gallons, and then gallons can go to pounds. So you've got to do a conversion to get to the gallons first before you can go to your pounds. And you should end up around 209.88. And I say around because remember, when you jump across the pond, quarts and liters, you could use the other one if you use the 0.946, I believe, quarts to 1 liter. That'll give you a slightly different answer. Here in number 6, a car gets 26 mpgs on average. How much CO2 is emitted to go 100 miles? Well, again, CO2, you're going to need to use the pounds over gallons. So you could work backwards on this one, or you could think, I have to go 100 miles. Well, to go 100 miles, how many gallons am I using? So if I would say 100 miles and then 26 miles per gallon, my miles cancel out. Now I'm in gallons. Once you're in gallons, you can go to pounds, and you end up with approximately 76.15 pounds of CO2. And in number 7, a car gets 30 mpgs on average. How much CO2 is emitted per mile? Well, this one I worked backwards. I'm not going to lie. I said, okay, CO2. I got to start with the 19.8 pounds over a gallon. So how do I get rid of gallons? I put it on the top. So I know that I get 30 miles per 1 gallon. So gallon goes on top. I divide 19.8 by 30, and I end up with 0.66 pounds of CO2 per mile for that one. All right, we're going to go ahead and call that video number 1.